Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Satisfactory. I'm Accent Evolved, and today we're gonna follow up on what we did last time and keep expanding out this fuel power plant that we're making, turbofuel power plant that we're making. But before I get into that, do me a quick favor, scroll down just a little bit, hit that subscribe button, help me just blast on through 1,000 subscribers, and you'll be the best. All right, you'll just be the best. So with that out of the way, let's hop right into this. So with everything all nice and painted and looking all good, you know, we got to the point now where eventually, once we have this thing all powered up, we'll be unpackaging fuel and we'll just have fuel coming out here. I guess it's diluted packaged fuel, right? But fuel nonetheless. And the next step would be to get it all into refineries to start making into turbo fuel. But if we look at the turbo fuel recipe, what do we need? Compacted coal. Now we know that we have compacted coal right there, but spoiler alert, that's not enough, but also it might be too much. What do I mean by that? Well, if we look over here, you can see I've got a little something brewing up over there. So let's hop over there and see what all that's about. All right, so we got a very simple little setup here. This is purely compacted coal, right? This is essentially the exact same thing we made way over there for that stuff, only it's here, right? Pretty easy. I think I was a good engineer, and I think I left myself some notes here. Let's take a look here. So we have one 480 line, one 450 line. You see the 450 line is currently going, right? That's kind of important, right? So if we look down here, now remember, these are coming from those 3 sulfur nodes up there, and down here we have our 4 coal nodes, which if we go and look into it, I have 2 configured, this one and this one, at 240 per minute, meaning they make a 480 line, and these guys right here, 225 plus 225 is 450. So we have a 450 line of each, which will equate to a 450 line of compacted coal, and then eventually a 480 line. And I'll just come out and be honest with you guys right now. I may have done my math wrong. I may have vastly overestimated how much compacted coal we were making, or how much we needed for what we wanted to do. And I think I don't know, maybe I underbuilt my factory, my power plant. Now, we're still going to have, when all said and done, using the numbers we're using, I don't know, 400... I'm sorry. About 40,000 megawatts, right? That's nothing to sneeze at, you know? But I'll kind of explain what I mean a little bit later, right? I'll make it all clear here in a bit, right? But you'll notice we are only doing one line here. So let's go ahead and boop in the second floor that I'm about to build. And oh man, it's so gorgeous. It's not doing anything, but it's gorgeous. Yay. That's right. So this is now going to be the 480 line, right? 480 line of compacted coal. We got a 450 line of compacted coal, and it's just going to hang out here until we need it. Eventually it needs to get over there to meet up with that stuff and start making turbo fuel. But yeah, it's not doing that yet because we don't have anything making turbo fuel, unfortunately. And that's where the next step is going to be. We got to make, as you can see here, if we kind of look over here, 57 refineries. That's quite a lot, right? But luckily, I use a technique here that I can use over there. You'll notice these all look the same, right? And that's because if I go to remove some stuff and I go into blueprint mode, whoa, what's that? That's right. I have started making some blueprints like a good seasoned Satisfactory player that I am trying to be. But let's take a quick look here at what that entails, right? So we'll just go ahead and we'll load up. We'll just load up this guy. And it's pretty straightforward, right? So it's, if we look at the notes, assembler right to left. I try to name them based on their input direction. So as I'm looking at it, which way is it inputting? Well, the inputs are going right to left, right? So we have a lower one and an upper one. Now, these are set up so that 480 lines on the, I guess, the manifold belts, and Mark 1 on the feeders, right? So this should be enough, and we have the outputs going left to right. So everything should be coming and going on the right side of the blueprint, right? But I because I was making so many of these, I just wanted to make my life easier, you know? And these, as you can see, can be tiled pretty easily. No problem there. One thing I might have changed about this, or maybe I will still change, is how the power is done. I like to do the power poles, or I like to make beams that kind of run down the middle and have the power drape down from it. And you can see over here, it just because of the way I'm doing this, it just causes the power poles to kind of look strange sometimes. I mean, they like line up and they don't, and you know, you have like an extra one there, and then you have an extra one over there. I don't know. I just think it looks kind of strange. But the idea was to just start using blueprints, and this is the first instance of a real like tileable blueprint setup, and it's recipe non-denomination. I don't know. It's recipe agnostic. You can put whatever recipes you want in here. I don't have the blueprint set to any specific recipe. You can do that though. Like you can set those assemblers to a recipe, save it like that, and then when you stamp them all down, they're already set for recipes and all that stuff, right? But I just didn't do that. So we are going to use this same technique, and we're going to go over there, and we're going to start making some refineries. So let's pop over there, and I'll explain more what I mean. Now, before we look at all of this, I want to address what is going to go on with the fuel here. So we're just basically going to take this fuel, and I want to run everything through an industrial fluid buffer, because I just want that security, right? And we may still have a necessity of starting this up in stages, because again, we're dealing with some power issues here, right? So I'm just literally taking this stuff and just kind of putting it where we need it. So one of the techniques I'm using, you might be noticing here, is there's a way that you can kind of guarantee yourself a 90-degree pipe here. You notice how these are like nice 90s? At least, wait, hold on. Is this a nice 90 or is this a jacked up 90? And yeah. Okay, so here's what not to do. Here's what happens when you do it wrong, right? So let's fix this, right? The way you get a 90 is you get the plane that you want, you know, so these two line up together, right? You line this up with the pipe, and then you just move it over twice. So right there. Now, if I do things like a good citizen, now you have a nice 90. And that's just kind of what I've done over here, right? That's all that's happening here. And this is the same thing I was about to do for this guy, right? We're going to line this up. And this is, of course, until they just put straight mode on pipes. And you don't have to, I'm locking the hologram, but you know, you could just place it, right? So that's where it should, that's the midpoint, and then we just go 2 clicks, and boom, you know, you're done. So we just go like that, and we go like that. Okay, so all of the residual fuel, the diluted packaged fuel, whatever we're gonna call this, is gonna fill up these guys. These are then gonna use gravity again to flow into our refinery bank here. And you may remember from the last episode, but if not, you know, we have 57 refineries that we need. And that's a nice number, because if we divide that by 3, that's an even 19 refineries. So what I did is I set this up so this whole area can just be a blueprint, just farm, right? First, we're going to place down, are these, they are blueprint mode, right? So we're just going to tile down everything, make a big old pad here. I won't do it all just yet. And then we'll consult the other refinery. So this is refinery solid plus liquid. That's the S plus L. If we go back to the blueprint here, you look on the right there, solid and liquid input, right to left solid feed. So what does that mean? Here, I'll show you. So we're placing this in blueprint mode, and what's nice is because it'll just kind of like snap to other blueprints. But we need to rotate this one. So let's see if we can get it in place here. Come on, don't do this to me, blueprints. Okay, so you can see, there we go. We want it to be like that. And then what's nice is you just put one down. We got dimensional depots, so I can just put another one down, and I can just come over here, and I could put another one down, so on and so forth until I have 57 total. So let's do that real quick, and we get something like this, right? There's a lot of refineries. I mean, that's obviously, this is not all of them, right? But it's enough to kind of highlight what we're doing from a blueprint perspective, right? So, and you can see, right? Here, let me get up here. There's a couple things about this blueprint that I did intentionally, and you can see what I was talking about for the assemblers here, right? I like having these beams up here and just having the power go down. If you'll go to the end of the blueprint here, you'll notice there's a little bit of overhang right there, you know? And that's so that when you put these together, they kind of line up. But if you were to be at the end here, you could just come straight down, just like that. So they tiled nicely. There is a small gap in between the tiles, which I personally don't mind, but you know, it's just so easy. You just run up, connect it, connect it. Oh, do the solid, connect it. Now, this is a liquid solid input and a liquid output, right? Again, I don't have any of the recipes set here. But yeah, I just want to kind of highlight that real quick. You know, you'll obviously have to make sure that you connect the power up. But again, it's super simple to just go in between the different blueprint tiles and do it all. So that's what I'm going to do to get the rest here, because we've only got 9 in each row. So I'm just going to build out a little bit more and build the other 10 in each row. And maybe do a little decorating, you know, I don't know. But we'll come back and we'll talk numbers and about why I'm not going to actually have one at 88.9%. So let's get that build out and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I have these last ones I had to put manually because, you know, odd number and we're using groups of 3 and 19 is not divisible by 3, blah, 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 blah. These are placed very deliberately. And that means that we have these last ones here are all clocked in their own special manner, right? You see this one's underclocked to 66.67. This one is actually overclocked to 155.556%, blah, blah, blah. How did I get to these numbers, right? Well, you'll have to kind of remember how we had everything set up over here, right? Basically from the heavy oil residue on, we have lines, so to speak, right? So we have that line of diluted packaged fuel. So this line of 8, this line of 7, this line of 7. Those continue, right? So these refineries feed into these packagers, middle one into there and the end one into there. Well, if you also notice, we keep that. We keep that going all the way down, right? So this line right here stays in this line, and it's very specific. So all of them, what do they all have in common? They all have 7 unpackagers at full clock. So that's 7 times 60. So all of them have at least 420 fuel in their pipe. This line, however, has 1 extra, right? So it has 440 fuel. And if we go down to the refineries and we look, right, they've all got specific resource inputs, right? And if we look, hold on, we're going to get to the end here because this is the one that's special. If we look at a normal one, we see 22.5 fuel per minute, right? So if I do 18 times 22.5, that's 405. Well, what does that mean for the last refinery? The last refinery has to make up the difference between this number and whatever the line contains. So this one happens to be a 440 line. So this last refinery needs to pick up that 35 extra slack in the fuel, and it does that by being overclocked. These other ones, remember, up to here we're at 405, so these ones only need to come up with 15, right? Boom, they're underclocked to be 15 per minute on this one and this one. And that's purely so that we keep the lines all kind of dedicated to each one, right? So yeah, so that's kind of the thought process there. We still are missing, a whole ingredient, right? We don't have any of the compacted coal runs. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to make this look a little prettier, and I'll show you again the numbers in a little bit more detail and kind of explain where I messed up and what the options are to fix it. So let me just pop over there real quick. So there we go. Got everything kind of painted. It's like looking nicer. We got pipes painted and all that. Everything's kind of, well, not powered on, but it's all here. And now we've got a belt coming in, right? So if we kind of just look at what this belt contains, right? It's the 480 line of compacted coal that we have way up there. The first one that we built, I don't know, 2 episodes ago, last episode, I don't remember when it was, right? I brought it all the way over here, put a nice little label on it, and we're gonna go. And I also made these guys right. Oh yeah, I made this sign too, showing like how much is coming in from each one. I'm trying to be a good engineer and a good planner and kind of really figure everything out, right? So this can show you a little bit better what I'm talking about, right? We have our 3 lines, and from left to right it shows you how much fuel is in each one. But then we can come over here and see how much compacted coal we're gonna need for that, right? Now, this whole factory is built on 480 crude oil per minute, which, I mean, we have a lot more that we can tap into, right? Somewhere along the way, I like massively inflated this number. This is a lot lower than I thought we would need. So, yeah. So what does this mean, right? Well, let's do a quick little bit of inventory here real quick. We have a 480 line at the newest compacted coal factory. We have a 450 line at the newest compacted coal factory. And we have a 480 line coming in from the far off one, the one that we just ran over there to the left. That one right there. What is that? 1410. What do we need here? 589. So we have way more compacted coal than we need. What does that mean for us? Well, we have a couple options. There's a couple things I'm considering, right? Number one, if we look at turbo fuel, we got a couple options, right? We can use this one. We can go heavy oil, compacted coal, turbo fuel. That's easy enough. This one makes a little bit less, right? I don't know. We're going to have to kind of figure it out. Now, this is a lot of machinery, right? I don't have a count right. This is one line of refineries. 270. So 270 times 3. So that's 800 megawatts just on this pad. All these machines up here, who knows? I have to hook them all together to see how much power this is all going to take. But suffice to say, we may need another power plant just to turn this one on. Conversely, once this is running and self-sustaining, maybe we do something with the rest of that compacted coal and the rest of the oil and do a whole other turbo fuel plant like in the same area. Maybe do it out there. Because one of the nice things is if I do this recipe, there is no water requirement. So it's purely oil, compacted coal, turbo fuel, right? Maybe I make a smaller plant that is just enough to power all of this stuff. And it's like the last resort emergency power. So that, because, I want to make a control room somewhere. We got to put the fuel generators down somewhere. I want to make an area for that guy, the power augmenter, and a bunch of priority power switches, right? Because I want, in the case of a power outage, I want the emergency power plant to come online, and that should have enough power to kick this thing on. This is still going to be 40,000 megawatts when it's all said and done, and I'll show you the math on that after the fact, right? But yeah, let's go talk about this compacted coal, right? So we have one line coming in. This is 489. I don't know how you're supposed to make a belt of 293.333. So 293 and 1/3 meters or per minute. I don't know how to use splitters and all that to make that belt. So I decided I'm not even going to try to figure it out. What I did, we're bringing in this 480 line. It's going to run into a smart splitter where the default is right. So it's going to go that way. Everything's going to default until this line is saturated and backed up, right? Remember, this is 480. This one only needs 293. So there's like 100 plus compacted coal per minute that's going to be excess here. That will overflow center, which is this way. So this one's going to get 100 something into this merger. This also has a smart splitter. So we'll take probably the 450 line, run that over here somehow into one of those, and that'll just come over. You know, we'll kind of just do, I don't know, it's going to be long enough. Yeah, let's, here, we'll do, no, there we go. So we'll just literally do it like that. 450 line comes in. 450 line is going to default right. See, default on the right, overflow straight. So that 100 plus the 450, 550 going that way, that'll be saturated. Then this will overflow this way with more than enough, right? This should have at least 400 going and fill up that way. What is that going to mean, right? We're bringing in 450 plus 480. We're bringing in 930 per minute, and we only need 590. So there's going to be a lot of excess here. What I'll probably do is put another overflow into the system somewhere, maybe out here, or maybe actually closer to the sources. Maybe on the 450 line actually, because I want that one to get, that one's so far away, it's going to be a pain to mess with. So I'll probably put some overflow splitters back here so that the residual from that plus that 480 line can be used in our secondary power plant. Who knows? Maybe we put it out there. You know, you don't have to see it. It could be kind of like its own thing. I don't know. I need to unlock priority power splitters, or not priority power switches, right? What is that? I think it's in the MAM, right? Ooh. What is this? Coded cable. We'll leave it. All right, so if I go back to Caterium, all right, we need to unlock some of this stuff. Priority power switch is what I'm referring to here. The way I've never used this before, but the way I understand it is you can put circuits or other priority power switches into, I guess, priority groups, right? To where when you experience an outage or when your machinery is pulling in more power than you're producing, it will start shutting down those other priority power switches in the lowest priority order until everything then has enough power to go back online, right? So you can do things, we have rubber and plastic. Well, those aren't mission critical. Those can be in like the lowest priority. So I would want those to shut down before the water extractors or whatever, right? So what we can do is put all the machinery, so like all this stuff, all those miners, we can put all of that into like a priority 1 circuit behind a priority power switch. And then should everything else shut down, everything would shut down with that being the absolute last thing. And ideally, we'd have enough in a battery storage and with our geothermals that are also going to be on that circuit to, restart everything, right? So that's the plan. But in order to really do that, I need to figure out how much power all this is going to take, honestly. And then, we have we have another thing to take into account too. And actually, I need the man back. And there's something else we can do with all that oil that we have. There's a guy right, I believe, in that direction. It's somewhere. Where is it? It's somewhere out there. Oh, it's right up there. You might be able to see it on the mountain there. Right there. That's nitrogen. Why does that matter? Well, if we look here and we go to sulfur and we go down, we follow the tree, we go, ooh, we got our compacted coal, we got our turbo fuel. What's next? Rocket fuel. What does rocket fuel need? Packaged nitrogen. We don't have the ability to do that, and then further down is ionized fuel, right? We don't have the ability to get that yet, but I'd be willing to bet that rocket fuel burns even slower than turbo fuel, which means we could get even more power. So it may turn out, because again, this is only 480 fuel per minute, or oil per minute. I don't know if I can overclock the extractors, but we have, or I guess they are extractors, right? We have that patch, and then we have this one and that one, right? So in fact, let me check these things out. I can overclock these. So there's a possibility where we use that guy, that 40,000, as the priority 1 power, right? Like that's on its own circuit. And then we use all the rest. So I can have, because that's 2 pure nodes up there. I'm confident I can get that to run off one of those pure nodes with some overclocking, right? If we can get that down to 480 from one extractor, take the other pure node and the 4 nodes here, turn that all into rocket fuel, with the limitation being how much compacted coal we have, that could be a lot more power. We could have just a ton more power. I don't know though. That's still all up in the air. And then there's the thought process of, okay, well, what about nuclear? 40,000 is probably enough to get us to nuclear. I've never done nuclear. Am I going to do both? Am I going to do rocket fuel and nuclear? There's a lot of questions here. But I also, where does that 40,000 come from? That number I keep referencing. Well, I know for a fact that my factory here is going to make about, let's say, this much turbo fuel. And I know that each fuel generator uses about that much per minute, which means we're going to be in the neighborhood of 143 fuel generators. Those make 250 megawatts, and you can see here 7.5 per minute. So if I have 143 fuel generators times 250, that's 35,750. And you might be saying, well, that's not quite 40,000. Even rounding, that's a lot. That's a lot, right? So what if I did this? 35,750 plus 500 from the augmenter. 500. Okay, we're getting closer. What else does the augmenter do? It gives you a 10% boost to the total grid. So if I multiply that times 1.1, which is a 10% boost, there you go. That's practically 40,000. I'm okay rounding that. That would get us to 40,000. So that's the plan here. We're going to use that, and you can kind of see it here. Right? Yeah. So you can kind of see, right? It's giving us 410 on this. 45.1 is giving us about 410, which, so really it's 4,010 plus 410, or it's 4,000 plus 410, something like that, right? That's a 10% boost. That's a static power, and we're getting all that. So, and you could do more than one, which is kind of crazy, right? So, I think we'll be okay, and we'll kind of evaluate our options as things open up, and we actually get all the fuel generators down, and we'll see how much of my mind I lose in the process. So, anyways, guys, thank you all so much. I hope you're enjoying the series. I really do appreciate all the support and all the subscribers and all you guys that have been kind of watching this series and who've been watching the channel for a long time, hopping in the streams and all that. It's been a crazy journey, and the fact that we're approaching 1,000 subscribers is just, it's just like blowing my mind. I didn't actually dream of that happening. I thought that was such a crazy goal to get to, but here we are on the cusp of it, and it's all thanks to you guys. So, again, you guys, thank you all so much, and I hope you're enjoying the series, and we'll see you in the next one.